Hey guys, welcome back. It's Ripe again, back with more real estate drama stories. In this video, a ridiculously entitled neighbor built a giant house on my property thinking there won't be repercussions for it. I ended up teaching him a $300,000 lesson. Let's dive right into the video. And the first one is titled, I demolished my neighbor's $300,000 beach house. I know, just glancing at the title, this might seem like I'm the bad guy in this scenario, but really, my neighbor was. So my name is Josh, and about 5 years ago I managed to get a plot of land in Bali fairly cheap, and my plan was to move there. I was born in America, but when I was 21 I moved down here to Australia. The cost of living in either of those countries is crazy high, and I did the math and realized with the saving and smart investing I've done over the last 15 years I could move down there to Bali and not even really need to work. I probably will, just because it would be boring not to, and I would always want some income coming in. So then the property was purchased and I was ready to move down there and build a nice home in paradise when, boom, the pandemic hit and the world shut down. I was not able to get a house built yet, and I couldn't even go there since travel was being so restricted, and I had to sit and be patient and wait out an epidemic with the light at the end of the tunnel being my new life. Once I could travel again, I wanted to go down and check on my property. I was worried about squatters or the land being messed up after all that time. Instead though, there was a huge beach house already built on my property, and it was not mine. I had a quick idea about who it might belong to because it was spanning the space of 2 properties. The neighbors who got the lot next to mine clearly built something, taking up both, but I didn't want to go in angry. Maybe there was just honest confusion. After speaking to them, that notion went right out of the window though, because they knew what they did and had zero remorse for doing it. I don't want to get into the details of the long and drawn out conversations and arguments, but I do need to put in this one gem that the neighbor said to me. Neighbor, we were just kind of hoping that you decided to stay in your old country or that you died of the virus or something. Yeah, they built it knowing that it belonged to somebody else and just did it anyway, thinking that maybe I would just be dead. I don't know the type of minds that think that way, but I can say it is not normal. At that point, I would rather had some crappy excuse on their part. I was here now though and wanted to know what they were planning to do about it, since I wanted to build and live on my property. And well, for that they basically told me that I was too late and they claimed the land and the house was already built. I told them that I paid for the property and wanted it only to be lowballed with a small amount of money to basically go away. They were the ones that were gonna end up going away once I was done with them, and they would not have the money either. This had to be 10 different kinds of illegal, so I went and got a lawyer to find out what I could do about it. I was basically suing them for stealing my property and demanding that it be returned to me in the same state that it was in beforehand. Instead of admitting that they did something wrong and agreed to sort things out, they instead decided to fight back against me. At first I was willing to settle where they pay the money it would cost to get a similar sized lot in that same area. They refused though, claiming that I abandoned the property and that meant it was up for grabs. 2 things were wrong with going that route for a fight. The first being that even if the property was abandoned, they did not have any claim to it and would still need to buy it. The government or city or whatever would regain ownership. The second and bigger thing was that during the pandemic, pretty much everything got put on pause. Yes, I was not at the property for an extended period of time and had nothing built, etc. Normally, this would cause them to want to look into things and possibly declare the lot abandoned or something. Due to everything, none of that was being legally enforced, as it was understood people got stuck in other countries or cities. Anyway, once they realized that they were losing, the neighbors tried to send me a counter-offer as a compromise. They would pay me the original amount that I paid for the lot, so I would not have any actual net loss from it. In the beginning I might have accepted that and used it to build a house on a different lot. Besides, I wouldn't have them as neighbors in that case. After putting me through all of this and knowing that I was gonna win, I refused their offer and instead insisted on my property being given back to me. Plus, I wanted them to pay for my legal fees. Now for the moment that some of you were probably waiting for, the result that brings us back to the title of this post. So basically, the judge agreed with me that they had no right to build the house, and even the construction company they used should not have built it there without checking things first. They were also going to be checked out and probably fined or have licenses pulled depending on what happened. That was something I never did find out because I wouldn't know where to look anyway. The judge demanded that in order for my property to be given back to me, the giant beach house would have to be destroyed. The neighbors were a mixture of angry and sad as the money they spent was wasted and their possible dream home torn down. I might have felt bad if it wasn't clear they were horrible people. They could have easily purchased 2 plots next to each other if they wanted a big house like that, knowing you're doing the wrong thing and only feeling bad once you get caught. To me is a sign of total nutcase. To them, I might be the crazy one, as I was happy and enjoyed watching the illegally placed home get destroyed. Well, I was able to start construction on building my own while they were forced to rebuild something smaller and within their actual property lines. We are neighbors now, but I think they are intentionally avoiding me, an action which I deeply appreciate and makes me very happy. I love my new house and life here in Bali, and I hope you enjoyed hearing about the legal battle for it to happen. And the next one is a revenge story. And if you enjoyed the title story, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel because we are getting closer and closer to 130,000 subscribers. So 2 years ago, me and a group of friends rented a condo in a popular tourist town for a long weekend. We paid a pretty penny, but the location was perfect for our needs. When we got there, the building and condo were both pretty underwhelming, but we didn't care. It was just a place to sleep and we wouldn't be spending much time there. When I say underwhelming, I really mean the building was unsafe. The exterior egress stairwells had sections rotted through, loose railings, you name it. Not long after checking in and getting settled, we were able to figure out that this place was gonna be a problem. The Karen neighbor upstairs demanded that we move a vehicle from the unloading zone because it had been there too long. It had been there for about 20 minutes to be exact, and we were still unloading food. She was of course quick to inform us that she was the president of the COA, and if we step out of line again, she will have us removed without a refund. Right after this, a black pickup truck pulled up and she beelined to talk to the driver, who never got out of his vehicle. And then later that afternoon, another group checked into the condo next to us, but Karen was not there when they checked in, so they did not get the same uppity treatment. Our group left to go out to dinner and ended up staying out pretty late. When we got back, everything was quiet and we were lights out not long after. The next day, the condo next to us is already getting after it pretty early. This is a pretty busy weekend in this particular town, and they definitely have other friends in town too. They are barbecuing, swimming, loud music, really not bothering us though, but we keep noticing that black pickup driving by almost hourly. We assume he's probably a local that lives in the neighborhood and don't think anything of it. Well, we go out again for dinner and head back to the condo to grab a pre-game beer or two before going out for the night, and it is a madhouse. The condo next to us is having a party that is spilled into every open space on the property. We go into our condo, lock the door, snap a few pictures and videos in case we have to show our host that we were not involved here. As we are sitting in our condo finishing our beers before we head out, no music on, football was on TV, the door slams open and we are greeted with a screaming, "What the F are you a-holes doing?" from a guy that barges in, key in hand, with Karen watching from outside the door. We immediately spring up ready for a fight. We don't know this guy and at first thought he was with a party and broke down our door. He then identifies himself as the host, aka condo owner, and again starts screaming at us. As it turns out, Karen told him we were hosting this large party, not bothering to take notice that it was the condo next to us. She piggybacks off of him screaming at us that we are destroying the condo and need to leave. We then ask to step outside and we will come out to talk numerous times, all the while we are now recording, but they both refuse, just repeating the "Get the F out here, leave" at us. So we call the cops, and when he realizes that my one friend is on the phone with the dispatcher, the owner catches some post yelling "not clarity" and reality smacks him. He begs for my friend to hang up, but he refuses, and he immediately changes his tone and yells at Karen to go back upstairs to her unit. The police show up, a few cars since the initial call was for someone who was irate and forced their way into our condo, and they see right away what's going on, break up the large party and ask us nicely if we can work things out with our host, who has pulled a full 180 and is now trying to smooth everything over. At this point we realize that the black pickup belongs to our host, and he tells us the reason he was driving by almost hourly was that Karen kept calling him complaining about us. This whole time though, Karen is out on her balcony chirping, saying that we were doing stuff that we weren't, citing COA violations, and definitely half shot in the ass herself. We inform our host that we are gonna vacate and handle the issue through the third party we booked through. He does not like this and is trying to hide his rage while being nice in front of the officers that are still there. He insists if we vacate, we won't be entitled to any refunds and all the usual BS they say when they know they are wrong. We show him the rental contract that says the owner cannot enter the condo except for certain exceptions that don't apply. So then we round up our stuff and check into a motel that the third party's customer service found for us. Revenge had to be doled out here, I just couldn't let this go. So I sit down and do it the right way. What the condo owner and Karen did not know is that I used to work in this town when I was younger, or should I say I worked for the town, specifically doing code enforcement, aka building, fire subcode, fire safety, and local ordinance. I filed a complaint with the town against the COA that was to this day one of the longest I've ever seen. The inspector went out and actually red tagged the property, meaning uninhabitable until repairs are made for some of the worst violations. In total, the COA had to spend over $70,000 to fix their violations, in addition to the costs of the penalty/fines and reapplying for their license to rent. It cleaned out their coffers and each unit had to shell out cash. There was a rumor that Karen was also investigated for stealing from the COA, but I never heard if it went anywhere. Oh, and by the way, the third-party app fully refunded us. If you are gonna be an a-hole, you are gonna pay for it. And the next one is another revenge stories, and if you enjoy the revenge stories, then please don't forget to like the video and maybe even post some star emojis in the comments if you wish to support me. So in July, my ex-fiance announced that he wanted a break to focus on himself. I was sad but tried being understanding while he stayed at his so-called friend's house most nights the next couple weeks. He left a random mess next to his gym bag, aka clothes, papers, misc, etc. I started cleaning it up when I noticed a paper with handwriting on it. It was a love note from some random girl. At the end, the note said, "Heart Maddie." So I posted a picture with the note and my ex in a Facebook group that exposes cheaters. His family, co-workers, friends and mystery woman all saw and commented about how crappy he is, and it turns out she is a co-worker he met at a job he started a couple months before. He never mentioned me. I told the other girl literally about all his shortcomings. How he love bombs the first few months and then it all stops, how he finishes in 2 strokes but doesn't care if you are happy, how over half his checks go towards his truck and he won't help with rent because the rest of his money goes towards his dirt bike. So then we both end up dumping his ass. She is a young party girl who's popular and ends up talking lots of crap about him to all his co-workers. This even travels to his last workplace where he was a supervisor. People at his parents' church tell them that they are disappointed in him. For a guy who really tries hard at looking good, this has hurt his ego, but I still feel like he deserves worse. So we are at the end of October. I had moved out on my own and minding my own business. He texted me a sad-sounding message and mentioned filing bankruptcy, trying to get sympathy and someone to talk to. I ignored his message and had intercourse with someone else for the first time. I hate being mean, but I'm good at it when someone hurts me, so I record a video of me flushing the ring down the toilet. I message my ex back with the video, tell him I'm screwing someone else and a sexy selfie. When we first broke up, I was 160 pounds. I wanted him to see my new 125 pounds body and got a significant pay raise, so I'm feeling confident, but he was obviously upset, but I feel like he brought all this on himself. As far as I know, he's miserable right now. He's still binge watching 7 episodes a night of the same show. He finished NCIS series from beginning to finish since I moved out. I feel like I have my revenge and I hope he never cheats on someone else again with this lesson. Honestly, I was so trusting and I feel like it doesn't compare to the pain I felt from the betrayal. And now let's move on to the next story. It starts like this. Before I start talking about what happened, I feel the need to address the gun controversy and where I stand on it. It might save me some hate in the comments later. So I live in a state where the gun laws are pretty moderate and people seem to be split down the middle about their views on it. Do I believe that people have the right to own a gun? Yes. But I also believe that guns need regulation to make sure they are trackable and people who are not stable shouldn't get to buy them. Finally, I believe that for certain jobs having a gun for work or protection can be needed. I'm a farmer and even if I did not enjoy guns and shooting as a hobby, I still would probably want a gun. If a bull I own decides to go crazy and come after me, I want a way to be able to save my own life. I've never needed to actually use it for that, but it's something that I've heard happening to other farmers. I do really enjoy shooting for sport, and on my property I built a gun range for me and my buddies to practice our aiming and just relax. And yes, I built it within all regulations to make sure that it was both legal and totally safe for myself and the properties around me. The HOA I lived in does not have the same views as I do and thinks guns are horrible, and anybody that owns or shoots one should be in jail. Basically the most extreme end of the spectrum for wanting guns to be banned. I say that I live in the HOA, but I actually don't belong to it since my farm outdates them and I cannot be forced into anything. Even in the name, the H is for home, not farm. These 3 women that all seem to run the HOA hate me all because of my shooting range and tried constantly for me to get rid of it. They even called the cops once on me for it, and instead of arresting me, they praised me for having one of the safest at-home gun ranges they had ever seen. This thing even had sidewalls in case a bullet went flying off in the wrong direction. The HOA was pissed that I did not get arrested for that and tried to go back to asking me to remove it like nothing happened. I'm just gonna call all 3 of these women HOA president because I cannot actually remember which one was the actual president. They all looked similar to me and I gave no crap about any of them equally anyway. HOA president, we wanted to come by and ask you again to remove the gun range. Me, you think I'm gonna do anything you ask after you sent the cops after me? HOA president, you should have been arrested anyway. The HOA rules are clear that guns are illegal and you are not only owning one, but flaunting it. Me, actually I own 3 guns and I have every right in the world to have them. My farm might be in the middle of an HOA, but we all know that I'm not a member of it. It'll also tell you that while at first I found you only slightly annoying, I'm now slowly losing my patience. Leave me alone about my guns or the next person to call the cops will be me for harassment. So once a month I take a ride to somewhere where I do a lot of trade. And by the way, OP was kind of doxing himself there, so I had to censor that. Anyway, sometimes I don't actually end up selling or buying anything, while other times I find great deals on livestock. I even got a used tracker there at a really good price. So that means once a month I'm gone from my farm basically the entire day, and the HOA took full advantage of that fact. I knew it was them too because I had cameras installed because of my chickens. The egg production was less and I wanted to see if one of the chickens was eating the other's eggs, which can happen strangely enough. My gun range is in view with that camera and I saw most of it. They had come onto my property with somebody riding a bulldozer. I found out later in court that they used the fact that no guns in the HOA meant it was legal to destroy my range in their mind. His company also got him in huge trouble, but back to the moment at hand. So they had this guy destroy my gun range to the point that it was unusable, and I saw it all when I got back. I don't know if I was upset or furious when I saw the damage and the tapes, but I knew one thing for sure. I was gonna make sure that the HOA was not gonna be around for much longer. I wanted to dig them into the ground and place a headstone that said RIP HOA. I don't know why this keeps happening, but people think that farmers don't have any money. I have no idea if they saw movies where farmers were poor or something, but they think that I didn't have a penny to my name. As if things like the animals and machines and food did not all require a decent amount of money to begin with. So I did hire a lawyer, and he told me that with the tape showing what they did, I should not have any problems beating them in court. When they got the notice that they were being sued, they came over to the farm and laughed at me, trying to explain that the HOA had a great lawyer that could make anything I tried to say make me look bad instead. I didn't speak to them because they might have been fishing for me to give away something we were gonna use against them. It took a long while for us to get to court, and in the meantime I was really missing my gun range. It was the favorite of all my friends too, so we tried to rebuild it the best we could in the meantime, making sure to keep a close eye so it didn't get bulldozed a second time. The HOA idiot might be dumb enough to do the same illegal thing twice. When we finally did get to court, I showed the proof that the HOA president was the one directing the man in the bulldozer to destroy my gun range. She couldn't lie and say that she wasn't there or didn't do it. Instead, she started to claim that while I was not an HOA member, I still needed to follow their rules about the guns. Her reasoning might be the funniest thing I've ever heard, so I'm gonna just let it speak for itself. HOA president, while the farm might not be HOA property, the noise from the guns goes into HOA-owned air. And yeah, she was claiming the air was protected under the HOA bylaws, so I was not allowed to shoot my guns outside. I was biting my cheek so hard to not laugh that it ended up bleeding a little bit. She could have tried anything else for a defense, like claiming safety concerns, for example. Instead, she went right for the dumb excuse that lost her side all credibility. I was asking for the money to repair my gun range back to the state it was before, for the HOA to be disbanded for breaking laws, and finally, for the HOA president herself to be charged with destruction of property. I got all three of those things, and she was found guilty and sent to prison for destruction of my property. Again, with that I should know which of those three women were the president, but I swear they were triplets or clones or something. Either way, without an HOA, everybody was now free to own guns, and I told the neighbors that they could ask to use my gun range whenever they wanted. And yeah, ripe stars, I know that the topic of guns is kind of a divisive issue, but in the end, no matter where you stand on this, you gotta give props to the farmer for beating the HOA and having the law on his side. I will always respect the victory of a farmer. Also, I feel like no matter what it is about, standing up for your rights is super important. And yeah guys, with this we have reached the end of the video. However, if you cannot get enough of my content, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel to not miss any of my daily uploads. And also check out my podcast by searching for Ripe Stories on Spotify, Amazon, Audible and other podcast platforms. You will often find exclusive episodes and early access to new content. Furthermore, please check out my Patreon by going to patreon.com/ripeyoutube or my YouTube membership program for even more exclusive stories. Thank you so much, and I will see you again tomorrow.